Welcome into Sports Nightcap. It is Caleb Calhoun. We've got a lot to get to today, or tonight as it is. The NBA Finals and NBA Draft may be over, but a lot of fun happening. Got a huge trade to talk about with the Pittsburgh Steelers and Miami Dolphins. We're going to lead it off with that. But that wasn't the biggest story of the day still. The Malik Beasley gambling scandal. Man, it's getting weird. I'm just going to say it. It's getting weird. There's some stuff that's coming out that I don't know what I think about it yet, but it looks bad. LeBron James opts in for his $52.6 million contract. Should the Lakers listen to him? Should he stay with the Lakers? Is LeBron James at fault for the way he's approaching this? And is he still approaching it wrong? I'm going to get to that because I think there's some issues there. And we're going to close with the WNBA All-Star Game, and the voting is in. And Caitlin Clark fans are mad, but do they have a right to be? Because the players may be reflecting a little more than we realize with some of their data. So we're going to talk about that. Hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn your notifications on, tell a friend. We are having a lot of fun at Sports Nightcap. I've been having a lot of fun doing this with you guys, and I want to keep doing it, but I can't do it without your help. So let's get rolling. Let's dive in, and we start with Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith and Minkah Fitzpatrick, all part of a huge trade today. So the Pittsburgh Steelers have traded Jalen Ramsey. The Pittsburgh Steelers have traded Minkah Fitzpatrick for Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. They traded Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Dolphins for Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. On paper, this is a cost-cutting move with what seems like an upgrade for Miami. And for the Steelers, you get two veteran players, proven commodities, as you begin a quest to try to win a Super Bowl this year. So the question becomes this, and this is a big one now. Who won this trade? It's a pretty simple question. Who won the trade between Jalen Ramsey and Minkah Fitzpatrick? Honestly, as crazy as it sounds, I don't think it's close. I actually think the Steelers won the trade, and I think they won it pretty significantly. Look, Pittsburgh has been straddling the fence of just above average under Mike Tomlin for a really solid, you could almost say 5 years now, where they just stayed just above water with a winning record. And part of that is they've been forced into it because they just haven't had that talent to push them up the next level. They went and got Aaron Rodgers. They made it a couple of other trades. They're clearly going all in to try to win a Super Bowl this year. And who can blame them on that? You got Aaron Rodgers on a one-year deal. If you're going to do it, you might as well go all in and try to win the Super Bowl this year. Guys, Jalen Ramsey may be older. A lot of people don't know this. He's got a better PFF grade than Minkah Fitzpatrick. Minkah Fitzpatrick last year, his PFF grade was 68.4 overall. His pass rush grade was 51.5. His rush defense grade was 74.3. And his coverage grade was 67.9. Now, when you go to Jalen Ramsey and his PFF grades, honestly, he has a 71.9 coverage grade, an 85.7 run defense grade, a 76.5 pass rush grade, so an overall grade of 76.9. Now, you're going to look at that and you're going to say, hey, you know what? You could say Jalen Ramsey's just a more physical player, but the coverage grade is what stands out to me. The coverage grade is what really stands out to me. Jalen Ramsey is still a better player in coverage right now than Minkah Fitzpatrick. He was ranked 39th out of 222 cornerbacks. Minkah Fitzpatrick was 39th also out of only 171 Safeties. Minkah Fitzpatrick allowed 31 receptions and had 1 interception last year. Jalen Ramsey did allow 46 receptions and had 2 interceptions, was oftentimes targeted a lot more, and he had a 93.5 passer rating allowed, which was not good. That was one of his weaker spots, was he allowed a 93.9 passer, a 93.5 passer rating, but he did have 5 pass breakups. And truth be told, I think when you take everything into account, total QBR actually should matter more than passer rating. Total QBR allowed, and that's a little bit more difficult to measure. But at the same time, Minkah Fitzpatrick allowed a 132.1 passer rating. So where does that stand? Okay, so when you take all of this to account, Jalen Ramsey as a cornerback is better than Minkah Fitzpatrick as a safety. Jalen Ramsey's a better player in general. Even now with Minkah Fitzpatrick at 28 years old, Jalen Ramsey at 31, he's a better player. Then you add Jonnu Smith, an amazing safety blanket, by the way, for Aaron Rodgers, a perfect fit. Jonnu Smith just had over 880 yards last year. Never reached 600 before that, despite playing for Arthur Smith as a head coach with the Falcons and playing for Arthur Smith when he was the offensive coordinator of the Titans. Arthur Smith loves Jonnu Smith. He's a big fan. And without Arthur Smith, Jonnu Smith had his best season of his career last year. You don't think he's going to use him a lot more this year? Jonnu Smith more in his prime now, a little bit younger, I believe 29 years old. So that's a big safety blanket for Aaron Rodgers. Steelers still have a couple of issues. This part is true. They now have a vacancy at safety, obviously, and they need a number 2 receiver. And that's going to be a big deal, and that's something that's going to be difficult to find. However, if you have Darius Slay and Jalen Ramsey on either side at cornerback, when you start thinking about it that way, the safeties don't become as big of a deal. And Jalen Ramsey as a number 2 cornerback, by the way, which he probably will be now, then he could be very elite. Now, also, let's not forget about the fact that Juan Thornhill is with the Steelers, and he was with Cleveland the last 2 years. But before that, he was in Kansas City, and he started every game for the 2022 Super Bowl winning Chiefs. Okay, actually, he started every game at free safety for the first 2 Chiefs teams that won the Super Bowl in 2019 and 2022. He didn't start in 2023, to be fair. But still, Juan Thornhill, that's a proven player that they have who can start at free safety at 29. And when you consider that fact without Minkah Fitzpatrick, look, there's an argument that Juan Thornhill could end up being better himself. Okay, he's a little bit older. His coverage grade was not as good. His overall grade was not as good, but it wasn't that much of a drop-off, guys, to be honest. 39, he's 54th among safeties in coverage grade, and Minkah Fitzpatrick was 39th among safeties. I think the Steelers won this trade. I think they fleeced the Dolphins, honestly. The Dolphins freed up some cap space, but I don't think the Dolphins are making moves to free up cap space. I get letting Jonnu Smith walk. You trust your offense. You have faith in your system. But I think the Steelers absolutely won this trade, and I do have faith in Mike Tomlin to be able to get the most out of this team. And here's the big news if you're the Steelers. If you're the Steelers, you now are all in for this year. You're all in the way the Broncos were in 2015 Peyton Manning's last year, where they signed a bunch of backloaded contracts. If it doesn't work, no problem. You can blow it up and you can start over, and it's fine. Okay, I don't think anybody's going to have an issue with that. You might as well just go ahead and start over. Mike Tomlin has earned the right to not have to have one losing season because he's never had a losing season his entire career at Pittsburgh. That's still an insane stat to me, an underrated stat. Mike Tomlin's been the head coach of the Steelers for 18 years, and while people want to point out that he only has 1 Super Bowl, he's also never had a losing season. So I think what you should do is, if this doesn't work with Aaron Rodgers, and it may not, he could be on his last leg, although I think Aaron Rodgers was massively underrated last year, given what people say about him. I actually think he was a pretty good quarterback. But if it doesn't work, if he's too old, or if Jalen Ramsey gets hurt or something like that happens, then okay, you blow it up and move on. That's not a big deal. Another point I want to make, I think I made this a second ago, but just to be clear, I would also say that Darius Slay is older than Jalen Ramsey, obviously, to be fair. Darius Slay is older than Jalen Ramsey. So you have more veteran leadership at cornerback, but at the same time, you have smart players. And look, this is a experienced secondary that, again, you can blow it up if it doesn't work. That's probably how this all goes down. So I don't really think there's a problem with the way they approach this. I think this is great for the Steelers. And again, here's their last chance. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, they move on and they see what they can do. They need another wide receiver. I do agree with that, but they still have, I think this is a great trade for them long term. So hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn your notifications on. I have a feeling that we are going to see the Steelers make a deep run at the Super Bowl next year. Now moving on. Malik Beasley, an unrestricted free agent who played just this past year with the Detroit Pistons, is now being investigated for a gambling scandal. Malik Beasley last year, in his what would have been his 7, 8, 9, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, his 9th season in the NBA with 6 different teams. His 9th season in the NBA with his 6th team, the Detroit Pistons, averaged 16.3 points per game. He averaged, he shot 43% from the field, 41.6% from the 3-point line, one of his better 3-point shooting seasons. He has averaged 11.7 points for his career per game. But he did only shoot 67.9% from free throw last year with Detroit. Before that, he was in Milwaukee. Then he was with the Lakers and the Jazz in 2022-23. He was with the Timberwolves for 3 years before that, and spent his first 3.5 years with the Nuggets. So we say all this to point out that Malik Beasley is facing some serious allegations and is at the heart of a gambling probe. Beasley, according to ESPN, federal authorities are investigating Beasley on allegations of gambling related to NBA games and prop bets. They're based on the 2023-24 season when he played for Milwaukee. At least one prominent U.S. sportsbook detected unusually heavy betting interest on Beasley's statistics beginning around January 2024, a gambling industry source told ESPN's David Purdom. There was one game between the Bucks and the Blazers. The odds on Beasley recording fewer than 2.5 rebounds moved significantly at sportsbooks before the game, shortening from around plus 120 to around negative 250 due to a surge of action on the under. Beasley finished with 6 rebounds, and the bets that were deemed unusual lost. Okay. Beasley's attorney says an investigator is not a charge. He's afforded the same right of presumption of innocence as anyone else under the U.S. Constitution. Look, as I'm reading that now, I say this out loud. Guys, to be a little fair to Malik Beasley here, again, the odds were for him to record fewer than 2.5 rebounds, and you're saying this game that shot the red flag was a bunch of bets would have shortened the odds from plus 120 to minus 250, which would mean a bunch of people would have bet the under, which would imply, if you think Malik Beasley's at the heart of the probe, that he was betting the under, and then he finished with 6 rebounds. Why would he do that? I mean, it's not like rebounds are the same as 3-point shooting or free throw shooting or points. You can kind of make sure you don't get 6 rebounds. That's kind of a possibility. So that alone wouldn't lead me to believe that Malik Beasley honestly was doing anything wrong. However, there are other things that you can look at that suggest that Malik Beasley was doing something wrong. And we're just going to show a few highlights here and there on things Malik Beasley did, because a lot of them are suspicious and a lot of them have been brought up. And so we'll just go with a few of these real quick, because some of these are kind of intriguing. Some of these don't all involve him playing in Milwaukee, though, because as we said, this is about what he was doing during his time in Milwaukee. And I think some of the most standout ones are when he played for Detroit and when he played for Minnesota, which we're going to get to. But 2 Milwaukee ones real quick that just don't stand out. One is the defense he was playing in a game. So that is this one right here. I'm going to show this real quick. All right. We're going to maximize this screen. This is, let's pull this one up. I apologize. This is Malik Beasley on one of them, and it is kind of odd. I will say it is kind of odd how this played out. So let's play this real quick with Malik Beasley. This is one of the plays. He's guarding the guy. Now watch this. Just stops. Let somebody drive past him. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this defense. That's the worst defense I've ever seen. Let's show this again. One more time. Look at this. Look at Malik Beasley. What in the world? That's the biggest bit of questionable evidence that he let that happen, okay? That's the biggest bit of questionable evidence that he let that happen. And it's not, and it really leads to some questions. Now, here's a lesser one, but it is still kind of interesting from his time in Milwaukee. It's another moment on a fast break. I'm pulling this up now. This is Malik Beasley on his time in Milwaukee. Just watch this real quick when he has a fast break.
Looking for the foul call. Bees steps in the passing lane. Oh, he couldn't grab it.
Now, that's an easier mistake to make. Sometimes you're trying to grab something and you can't grab it. But, now it's going to draw some suspicion. Couple more. This is his last play in Detroit. To this point. And again, are people making a joke that this is his last play ever? Because it could be with the Knicks. But this is an interesting one. Remember, this is the first round with the East. The Knicks are up 116 to 113. Okay? Watch this.
Cunningham looking.
The Pistons have a chance to tie the game with a three.
Looking. Finds Hardaway. Hardaway back to Cunningham. Final seconds. Over to Beasley. He lost it out of
Beasley had a wide open look for three. Beasley had a wide open look for three with Detroit trailing the series 3-2 and down by 3 with 4 seconds to go. And he fumbled the pass from Cunningham. Fumbled the pass from Cunningham. It was one of the worst plays of the season. Watch this again. Look.
Finds Hardaway.
They close it on Cunningham. Beasley's wide open right there.
Over to
Wide open. And he fumbles the pass. That's a suspicious one. And that's not even a standard prop bet. That's just, it's like, were you betting on the game? What were you betting on right there? And then finally, the last one. This is actually from when he was in Minnesota. And I want to point this out. The Clippers were up 118 to 110, shooting a free throw with 5 seconds to go. Minnesota or LA was plus 8.5, I believe. LA was plus 8.5. Okay. So right now, Minnesota's covering. But if LA hits a free throw, Minnesota needs a field goal for them to cover. Watch this. Here we go. It's the free throw. Beasley. Look at this. Going as fast as possible with 3 seconds left in the game over.
One last shot.
He dunks it with 0.4
Beasley,
seconds
21
left
points.
to push Minnesota down by 7 instead of 9. Was he trying to get that fast break to make sure that Minnesota covered as 8.5-point underdogs? I'm just saying that all looks suspicious. I don't think there's any way around it. There's a lot of reason to be skeptical about Malik Beasley on some of those things, but the evidence that they provided, if that one game they're bringing up is what's leading it to it, I got to be questioning it at this point. Now, I will point out that if he is guilty, he should be banned for life from the NBA. I am a big believer in if you gamble on the sport you play, you should be banned from that sport for the rest of your life. It is the worst crime you can commit in sports, like from a sports setting. It is the sports equivalent of being a serial killer. Gambling on the sport you play is the sports equivalent of being a serial killer. Yes, I mean that. Gambling on the sports you play within the confines of the sport is the worst possible rule you can break, the same way being a serial killer is the worst possible crime type of criminal you could be. If you gamble on the sports you play, you should never be allowed back in it. Ever. It compromises everything about the game and the very credibility of the game you're playing. I prefer players who cheat to players who gamble on the sport. If you cheat, i.e. PEDs, you serve a suspension. If you do it again, you serve a longer one. If you serve a third one, you can have this whole levels of suspensions if you cheat with PEDs or things like that. If you gamble on the sports you play, it should be one strike. You're out. You're never allowed back in. I would even go as far as to say you shouldn't even be allowed a pension from the league, even if you were guaranteed it if you're gambling on the sports you play. It is the most dangerous thing that could compromise the game that you're playing. I said this for a long time. It's why Pete Rose never should have been allowed back into baseball. Now, I could be swayed on the Hall of Fame since he was the all-time hits leader. It's not like he gambled his way to those hits. Okay. But actually letting him back in the game, no, he never should have been close to it. And honestly, baseball should have sued him for what he did in compromising the game. And I do think there should be federal charges for people who bet on the sport they play. If you bet on the sports you play, you should be treated as if you're guilty of insider trading and you should be sent to prison. It should be a federal crime to bet on the sport you play if you are a professional athlete. I don't know if Malik Beasley did that. We'll see, but that's where I stand on that. All right, moving on. LeBron James opts in for his $52.6 million contract, his the 1 year deal to stay with the Lakers after the Lakers missed out got eliminated in the first round of the playoffs last year. LeBron James does say he's watching LA's moves. Brian Windhorst comes out and says the contract feels unusual, says this is the first time in 23 years he's ever been on a contract that's in its last year. So this obviously comes with Luka Doncic staying on the Lakers. And Rich Windhorst says that Rich Paul, LeBron's agent, said that fellow Lakers star Luka Doncic and the team were informed that this would be LeBron's move. However, the rest of the league was not keyed in. And they said this didn't catch anybody by surprise. And the big thing, though, is they are paying attention to the moves the Lakers are making. The Lakers have already set themselves up to not have success next year with LeBron. Luka Doncic, the trade to LA was a fleece by Dallas, particularly if Anthony Davis stays healthy, and now Cooper Flagg is there, and particularly if Kyrie Irving stays healthy. I thought that from the time. I think Luka Doncic has a lot of issues that people don't pay attention to, despite the fact that he's an elite shooter. There's a lot of problems in his game that need to be addressed, and they never have been. So I don't think he's championship caliber. I don't think playing with LeBron fully makes him championship caliber. I think he is a perfect complement to LeBron, a better one than a lot of other people LeBron has gone for. But LeBron is already in a bit of a bind because the Lakers also traded away Dorian Finney-Smith. And here's the truth of the matter. LeBron made a mistake opting in. He should have gone to an already ready team that was loaded and needed a little bit of help somewhere, because the Lakers don't know what they're doing with the moves they're going to make. And the Lakers also should probably think about starting over and just building for the future. Even if that means building around Luka Doncic, okay, do that. You can do that at this point because Luka Doncic is 26. So you got a good back. I mean, you got 5 years of Luka Doncic's prime at the very least, even if he doesn't take care of his body the way LeBron does. I'd build for the future if I was LA and maybe try to acquire some pieces here or there. I don't know if they have a championship run in them. The other part of this is that, and this is my big warning to LeBron James with the Lakers. If he tries to strong arm the Lakers to make moves for him, he will walk away with only 4 rings. If he tries to strong arm the Lakers to make more moves for him to build the championship team he wants, LeBron James will not win another ring with them. It is LeBron James's fault he doesn't have as many rings as Michael Jordan despite playing so many more years. And I'm not talking about who's better between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. I'm talking about things LeBron has done to hamper his own team. Everywhere LeBron has gone, he has strong-armed that team to make decisions, personnel decisions, that are not good for him or the team. Not just choosing Bronny James last year in the NBA draft, which was a LeBron James move, but also making decisions that LeBron thought was the right one at the time that was never the right one. Everywhere LeBron has gone, he has demanded teams make trades he wants. He was the one who pushed for the Lakers to trade for Russell Westbrook and give up Kyle Kuzma, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and Montrezl Harrell, despite Kuzma having a huge part of their title run in 2020 and Harrell being a solid player at center. Remember, they won the title in 2020. They had a bad 2020-21 season because Anthony Davis got hurt. And then LeBron pushed for the Lakers to make those trades to get Russell Westbrook. It was a major overreaction, and LeBron proved at that point he wasn't a great talent evaluator because Russell Westbrook and him were never going to work together. That was never going to be a fit. Russell Westbrook's hardly a good fit for anybody with the way he plays, particularly now that he's gotten older. LeBron then didn't want them to let Alex Caruso go, but they couldn't afford Caruso because they had to pay Westbrook, who they added at LeBron's request. LeBron James's problem is he is as bad of a talent evaluator as Michael Jordan. But the bigger problem for him is that unlike Michael Jordan, teams have listened to LeBron, whereas the Bulls never listened to MJ. And LeBron has teams listening to him because he tries to strong arm them. And it has become a huge mistake. LeBron, the GM, is horrible. He is not a good GM. He might actually be worse than Michael Jordan. I'm just going to be honest. He might be worse than Michael Jordan. How to this day he thought that Russell Westbrook would work better with him than Kyle Kuzma is beyond me. It's still one of the most insane things I could have ever thought of. Okay. For LeBron to think that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt he doesn't know what he's doing when he demands trades be made for certain players. Look, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to go a step further. I'm going to take it a little bit further back. LeBron, when he was deciding to go back to Cleveland, wanted to strong arm the Cavs back in 2015. I believe it was 2015 to make the trade to land Kevin Love. That was a huge mistake. That was a big mistake. I'm going to say it right now. That was a big mistake. I think the Cavs actually could have had a better chance to compete with the Warriors, at least for the first 2 years, had they stuck with drafting Andrew Wiggins. Yeah, I know that's a crazy thing for me to say. I get it. And not a lot of people will believe it, particularly since it turns out as of right now, Kevin Love has been a more effective shooter than Andrew Wiggins, which is kind of crazy to think about because it shouldn't be that way. But I think Andrew Wiggins would have been a better fit for LeBron and Kyrie than Kevin Love ended up being. I really do. I really do. You get a little more perimeter defense. You still get very good three-point shooting. You get an athletic wing. You could have moved LeBron down to the 4, and you could have had Wiggs at the 3, and then you could have had Kyrie play the 1. I actually think that would have been a very good counter to what Golden State was doing at the time. Kevin Durant's 2 rings still would have happened, but LeBron could have at least had Andrew Wiggins healthy his first go round in 2015, 2016, and 2014, 2015. Yeah, 2014, 2015. And a rookie Andrew Wiggins may have been enough without the pressure of playing in a Minnesota team that just was trying to start over. Could have been enough with LeBron leading the way for them to win a title because, as you remember, Kevin Love and Kyrie got hurt that year. So I think LeBron has been making mistake after mistake and strong-arming teams since he has been in the league, and it's been to his detriment. And if he hadn't been strong-arming teams, he might actually have 6 rings by now. He might. I still would say, by the way, I don't make the claim that Michael Jordan's better than LeBron because Michael Jordan has 6 rings and LeBron has 4. I think that's a dumb argument. I make the claim because I'm an advanced metrics guy, and Michael Jordan's advanced metrics are slightly better than LeBron's, despite playing a position and in an era that doesn't value advanced metrics as much. It really and missing 2 years in his prime. I think Michael Jordan is a better player. Missing 2 years in his prime, which would have boosted his advanced metrics, even make it crazier. And there was never a time when LeBron's career advanced metrics overall were better than Michael's. That's why I say Michael Jordan is a better player than LeBron, but it's extremely close. It's extremely close. And I'm not going to sit there and say that LeBron is lesser because he only has 4 rings. Okay. He's also very clutch. LeBron is very clutch. I just think that LeBron James is a bad general manager, and his general management has cost him more rings because he consistently tries to strong arm people to make decisions he wants, and those decisions are generally not good decisions. Finally, Caitlin Clark. The WNBA All-Star Game is upon us, and the perception that Caitlin Clark is hated and resented by WNBA players is not going away now. Caitlin Clark was number 1 among fans in the All-Star Game vote. She was number 3 among the media. She was number 9 among players. Not just number 9 among players, by the way. She was number 9 among guards. The players of the WNBA voted Caitlin Clark 9th in their All-Star Game voting, whereas the media voted her 3rd among guards. Just guards, not everybody overall, just guards. And then the fans voted her 1st. That suggests that there's a level of resentment and that she's hated and that it validates everything people were saying about Caitlin Clark. None of that is true. Caitlin Clark is not undervalued by the WNBA players. The WNBA players were the most accurate in their voting of where they put people, specifically when you consider the fact that they did put Caitlin Clark 9th, and she deserved to be 9th. And I'm going to add something else. If you look at the advanced metrics, Caitlin Clark is actually overrated by WNBA players. Yes, that's right. I said it. WNBA players voted Caitlin Clark WNBA players voted Caitlin Clark ninth among guards in the All-Star game. And that leads people to think that WNBA players despise Caitlin Clark. But if you look at the advanced metrics, they are actually overrating Caitlin Clark. They're just not overrating her as much as the media who voted her third or the fans who voted her first are. Caitlin Clark is not top 10 in any category in the WNBA except for assist, where to her credit, she is second in assists per game. However, she's 12th in the league in points per game. She's second in the league in assists per game. She's second in total turnovers, despite missing nearly half the season, and is well above everybody else in turnovers per game at 5.9. Her 1.6 steals per game are tied for 10th. But she's only shooting 39% from the field, only 29.5% from three. Neither are top 20, only 81.6% from the free throw line, also not top 20. Only 52% true shooting percentage, also not top 20. 0.7 blocks per game, not top 20. 5.7 rebounds per game. None of these are top 20. Her PER is 17, flat. Not top 20. Her win shares are 0.4, not top 20. Her win shares per 47 minutes. Her win shares per 48 minutes are 0.067, not top 20. Her offensive win shares are a negative 0.1. She has been a liability on offense this year, and that part of her game is her calling card, the elite shooter. Now, you can point out she's been hurt, and she has. She's missed nearly half the season. That would also lend itself to the idea that maybe she shouldn't be in the All-Star game because she hasn't been healthy. So the WNBA players are not wrong at all to vote her that low in the All-Star game. They were just more accurate in their interpretation of her than the fans or the media, and they still overrated her. All right, so let's look at some people who got more votes than her in the All-Star game, and we'll just go down the list. Paige Bueckers. Paige Bueckers has more points, steals, blocks per game, fewer turnovers per game, a better shooting percentage at every single level, a higher PER, higher win shares per 48 minutes. Sabrina Ionescu, more points, steals, fewer turnovers, better shooting percentage at every level, higher PER, higher win shares per 48 minutes. Ariel Atkins, the defensive specialist. Actually, I'll get back to her because there's a story there. So, Paige Bueckers, Sabrina Ionescu, both higher than Caitlin Clark, both deserve to be higher than Caitlin Clark. Among player ratings, players rated Alicia Gray number 1, higher than Caitlin Clark. Alicia Gray has more points per game, fewer turnovers per game, better shooting percentage at every level, higher PER, higher win shares per 48 minutes. By the way, Paige Bueckers and Sabrina Ionescu both significantly ahead of Caitlin Clark. This idea, it's because Caitlin Clark's white. So then why did they rank Bueckers so high as a rookie and Sabrina Ionescu second? Okay, it's just ridiculous to suggest that. Still moving on, though. Kelsey Mitchell, Clark's teammate, who was ahead of her. Well, guess what? Kelsey Mitchell has more points per game, fewer turnovers per game, a better shooting percentage at every level, a higher PER, higher win shares for 48 minutes. Kelsey Mitchell has been better than Caitlin Clark. Moving on down the list, because we have Skylar Diggins. Skylar Diggins is averaging more points per game, fewer turnovers per game, better shooting percentage at every level, higher PER, higher win shares for 48 minutes. Clearly better than Caitlin Clark this year. As of right now, playing better than Caitlin Clark. Not up for debate. Okay? Now, there are two people. We couldn't get the full list of all the players who were voted ahead of Caitlin Clark. There are two people you could question. I will say one you could question, one you should absolutely be upset about. Brittany Sykes at number 7 is ahead of Caitlin Clark. And truth be told, Brittany Sykes is probably the closest to Caitlin Clark. More points, fewer turnovers, better three-point percentage, slightly higher true shooting percentage, and a slightly higher PER win shares per 48 minutes. If Caitlin Clark's probably fully healthy, she probably is better than Sykes to this point. But, I mean, production has to matter, and Sykes has been better to this point. The other one is Natasha Cloud. That's just absolutely ridiculous. I'm not even going to dignify that. Natasha Cloud is not even averaging 10 points a game. Caitlin Clark is better than her at every level, but so are so many other players, and Natasha Cloud somehow as high as number 4. She should not be higher than Caitlin Clark. That's absolutely ridiculous. But we're not counting players that Caitlin Clark was ahead of who deserve to be ahead of her. That's one that's not being talked about because in terms of being overrated, like I said, the players overrating Caitlin Clark. Jackie Young is below Caitlin Clark among player votes. Even though Jackie Young has more points per game, fewer turnovers, a better shooting percentage at every level, a higher PER, higher win shares, and higher win shares per 48 minutes. And Kelsey Plum is below Caitlin Clark, despite more points, fewer turnovers, better three-point free throw and true shooting percentage, better PER, better win shares per 48 minutes. And then finally, a couple of others that should be ahead of her that I don't know where they voted because I couldn't get the full vote on this, but they weren't on this list, but a couple that are clear. Kayla McBride, fewer turnovers, better shooting percentage at every level, higher PER, higher win shares per 48 minutes. And Ariel Atkins should be significantly higher. Ariel Atkins, more steals, more blocks, fewer turnovers, better shooting percentage at every level, higher PER, higher win shares per 48 minutes. Yes, Caitlin Clark's averaging more points and more assists and more rebounds than Ariel Atkins, but Ariel Atkins is a defensive specialist and a more efficient shooter than Caitlin Clark this year. So I don't really think it's a question. So just going down the list of players that clear-cut should be ahead of Caitlin Clark. Paige Buchers, Serena Ionescu, Ariel Atkins, Alicia Gray, Kelsey Mitchell, Skylar Diggins, Kelsey Plum, Jackie Young, and Kayla McBride. That's 9. Brittany Sykes, I think, should also be ahead of Caitlin Clark at 10. So Caitlin Clark, at the highest, should be 11th among guards for the All-Star Game voting, and she's number 9. She is not being overrated by WNBA players. I'm sorry, she is not being hated on by WNBA players. They're actually overrating her by putting her at 9th, honestly. I think that was highly fair to do that. So I think it's ridiculous to suggest that. I think Caitlin Clark, again, has a great future ahead of her, but her shooting numbers and her shooting efficiency have dipped significantly. And without that, she becomes a liability because, again, she has a turnover problem. And because of her injuries, that's gotten worse this year. She's averaging 5.9 turnovers per game. That has got to come down. I do think if she took like a week or two off, just got fully healthy because she's dealing with this injury, maybe it would go down. I don't think she should force her way back. I mean, Indiana, I don't see a championship in store for Indiana this year. So I think they're 8-8. They're 500 just like they were last year. I say she take it, shut down the year, maybe tank. Michael, or just try to get fully healthy. Michael Jordan was held out his second year. There's nothing wrong with that. So try to get healthy. But right now, when you're looking at all-star voting, she was not an all-star. She's not an all-star. And I think it was right that they didn't put her there. Hit that like and subscribe button. Everybody ring the bell, turn your notifications on, tell a friend. I want to thank all of you for tuning into this. I want to thank all of you for listening to my spiels. We will be back Thursday. Again, we are live every Sunday, Monday, and Thursdays. And there's no specific time, but if there's a big sporting event on those nights, as there is during football season, we go live right after those sporting events, and that's what I will be doing there. So again, hit the like, subscribe button, ring the bell, turn your notifications on, be a part of something special we have here at Sports Nightcap. I want to thank all of you for tuning in. Again, I will be back on Thursday with Caleb Calhoun. This has been a presentation